Hello and welcome to the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast, where we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them, they struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options. Not having a clear plan is the enemy, and using a proven tax deferral strategy, such as the deferred sales trust, is the best way for you to exit highly appreciated cryptocurrency businesses, real estate, save a failing 1031 exchange so you can defer millions of dollars of capital gains tax and create and preserve more wealth. Hey, I'm your host, Brett Swartz, and each episode I'm joined by some of the best real estate, financial, wealth, crypto, and leadership minds in the world, where they share their ideas, deal stories, and inspiration. So together we can make complex tax deferral strategies simple and passive income plans achievable. I'm excited about our next guest. He is at least been on the show once, maybe twice, and this might be his third time. And he's an investor, author, and founder of Norada Real Estate Investments, a national real estate investment company offering well-researched investment opportunities in emerging U.S. markets. He's also the creator of Deal Grader, a scoring system that measures the investment quality of real estate investment, giving you an overall snapshot of its profitability and investment risk, and so much more. Please welcome to the show with me, Marco Santarelli. Hey, Marco, how you doing?
Doing good, Brett. It's good to be back on the show, and I'm honored to be here. It's going to be fun.
Absolutely. And for our listeners getting to know you perhaps for the first time, would you give them a little bit about your story and your current focus?
Yeah, definitely. So I'll just give you kind of a quick snapshot. So as you mentioned, I am a full-time real estate investor. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I run a couple of different companies, mostly real estate based. One of them is an investment fund that invests in mostly retail, e-commerce type businesses and a few other eclectic type of investments. But that is actually open to accredited investors. But I started Norada Real Estate Investments about 18 years ago. And it is a nationwide provider of turnkey cash flowing investment properties. So we basically provide people a service to invest in cash flow real estate in different markets around the country, 25 different markets to be exact. Other than that, I just started when I was 18 years old as a real estate investor. And never looked back. I mean, real estate is amazing in my life.
Fantastic. And on another show, we went into kind of your gifts and the talents you've been given, so people can go back and listen to that. I do want to focus, I want to change the question a little bit. What's the one habit that you're trying to practice in 2022 that you feel is going to have the biggest impact on helping you to help other people?
The one that's going to help me to help other people, this is going to sound maybe a little lame, but actually just being focused and organized. And not that I haven't been in the past, but I realize that I have so many plates spinning in the air that I'm being stretched in many different directions, and I don't have the bandwidth to keep up with everything. So I really am a big believer in delegating and automating anything and everything you can, so you free up the time to focus on your superpower, which if that's thinking and creating, which is a lot of the stuff that I do, I want to focus on those superpowers. So just getting more focused, organized, and delegating and automating anything and everything that we can will help me to 2x, 3x, maybe 10x what I'm doing. So that means helping a lot more people.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And I think that's needed even it's more needed than ever because of the pace of information, the pace of deals, just what we're seeing in the environment, and especially as you're leveling up and becoming, I say we get to call this episode "Why Marco is Still Bullish on Real Estate," because you have a cool name that not a lot of people have, but B, your brand is so big and it's building that we can just use your first name, which is pretty cool. But what we're saying that I'm sure you've done delegation in the past too, by the way, Marco, right? And you've done certain things, but I'm curious, what's the one thing you feel like is going to have or has had the biggest impact on that delegation? What is that practice? Is it hiring multiple more virtual assistants? Is it, I'm doing these Loom videos or Zoom videos where people, they watch over my shoulder as I'm doing the things, so I don't have to do them ever again. I traded my aspect of thinking what delegation was, which was, hey, let me teach you how to do this thing, to no, you just watch me do the thing, and then let you absorb what I'm doing, and then take over that. For example, learning Spanish. If I knew Spanish and I was trying to teach someone Spanish, it's much harder to do it on a whiteboard to teach somebody than, hey, let's go to Mexico for a couple of years and let's immerse ourselves in the language. So what is that thing that you're doing that's really, really going to help you delegate more?
I think this is going to resonate with some people who are controlling or OCD or control freaks, which I've been accused of being over the years. the hardest thing to do is have trust in other people. And I do trust people, but I also am very cautious. So it's hard to get over that hump and delegate things that you feel are only you can do the best, or you hold it close to the chest and you feel that you can't actually show somebody how to do something in a reasonably short amount of time. And just to be able to train yourself to trust other people and let it go through, and then train them to do that, whether it's through, Loom, or recorded videos, or in person. If you just do that, you'll look back, and even if it takes you a few days or a few weeks to train somebody to let go of something, you'll realize that you'll get that time back, twofold, threefold. And it starts to compound on itself over time. But that's the biggest thing, is just to trust and let go. It's really hard, but you need to do it.
Yeah, I can't agree more. And I think about the whole saying that, financial intelligence is it's 20% head knowledge and 80%,
Yeah.
basically emotional intelligence or emotional parts of it, right? And then that trust aspect is that relationship, that emotional intelligence, and then letting go and having faith and trust in somebody else, not without the training and the procedures and the things in place, but I think that's really powerful. So, but now let's try to apply all of that to why Marco is still bullish on real estate. So Marco, what's the number one thing that makes you confident and bullish in real estate in today's market?
Well, it really comes down to one basic economic principle, and that's supply and demand. I mean, we'll certainly drill down into this, because it'll just put flesh on the bone. But the bottom line is this: there is a lack of supply relative to the amount of demand for housing units in the country. And this is not a new thing. This has been going on for many, many years. We've been in a constant deficit in terms of being able to create new household formations to keep up with population growth, organic growth. That's really the answer to your question. We can dive into that as much
Yeah,
as
let's
you like.
dive right into it. What are some of the numbers that you're seeing?
Okay, so from a supply fundamental, we've been running a deficit for a long time. Actually, if you really go back far enough, you'll see that it has been going on for decades. But the last time we were in a point of equilibrium was right around 2007. But you have to remember, right before the Great Recession, we were building like crazy. There was a lot of speculation, a lot of new construction going on. So we actually got to a point where there was enough supply to meet the real demand, the true household organic demand. But ever since then, we got back into a place by 2012 where we were in a large deficit again. So Freddie Mac has recently said that between now and 2030, we could have a 4 million unit housing shortage. Now, that's not going to happen because builders are building like crazy and they're all on top of this game. But roughly speaking, we have a shortage every year by hundreds of thousands. The problem is baby boomers are staying put. There's a lack of new inventory coming on. Builders are trying to keep up. All of this increase in demand and lack of supply leads to increased occupancy, increased rental rates, increased property values. All a good thing if you own real estate or you're getting into real estate. But when we look at the demand side, we need roughly, actually, if you were to look at this about 3, 4, 5 years ago, we needed 1.37 million units every year of additional supply just to keep up with existing demand. Now, looking back today, those numbers have increased. We need roughly about 1.5 million units per year. Are we keeping up? Now we are. We're actually exceeding that as of 2021 and 2022. But you have to remember that we had about 8 or 9 years of deficit. So we're not ahead of the game. We're just filling past demand at this point in time. So if you look at the dynamics of what's going on, you'll realize that we need the real estate. We need a place to live. It's a fundamental need, food, shelter, clothing. And this demand is going to help propel property values and housing market stability going forward. I can go on about it, but I think you get the picture.
Yeah. No, I get the point. That's this deficit is huge, right? It's part of the 2008 crash was, banks and lending and development all seized up and just kind of paused. and it takes a while for these things to flush out, and the deficit just kept building, or the demand kept building, the supply was decreasing, and now it's kind of like playing catch up, and now we're finally starting to maybe on a year by year basis hit some things, but we have this big deficit to make up for. So it's hard to get that boulder over the top of the other side. That being said, what's the number two reason why you feel that to be really bullish on real estate, and perhaps even a better way to put it would be why we're not in this 2000 6 7 8 7 bubble, right, where before everything really hit the fan. So what makes you feel good for the next 12 to 24 months?
Well, I'm going to throw one more thing at you that's related to demand, and we're going to call it shadow demand. If you remember back in 2006 and 2008, we had, well, after the Great Recession, we had this concept called shadow inventory. All the foreclosures that were on the books of the banks that were not being released into the market, but they were there and ultimately were going to be put on the market. We referred to that as shadow inventory. You can't see it, but you know it's there. Well, there's a similar concept called shadow demand that exists today, and that's basically this. If you look at the percent of young adults, which are people that are between the ages of 18 and 29, these 18 to 29-year-olds that are still living at home with their parents typically, but living at home, is the highest it's been in the last 100 years. It's at 52% right now. So 52% of young adults 18 to 29 are still living at home with a parent or their parents. The last time we had a number that was approximately that high was 48%. That was back in the 1940s, which was literally right after Second World War. So ever since then, it's declined, and it was a low in the 60s of 30, well, actually 29%. And then it slowly crept up each and every decade to a high of where we are today. These young adults are not going to stay at home forever. They need to get out. They want to get out. So they're going to go out and find a place to rent or to buy, to live. And ultimately, they're going to get married and they're going to look for their own home to live. So this shadow demand that has been pent up for a long time is yet another pig in the python that is moving through the system that's going to come out and just continue to add pressure, that demand pressure to the housing market. So that's the concept of shadow demand. The other thing too is we're still at historically low interest rates, and even if mortgage rates were like a percentage higher, yeah, that's going to cut affordability. Fewer people are going to be able to afford to get a home, but there's still that need, that demand for housing. So that will always be there. And the fact that we're at historically low interest rates, provides that liquidity, that credit that people need in order to acquire and purchase investment real estate for their home. So we are in a great time where demand is strong, supply is still short, that trend's continuing, interest rates are very low. There are a lot of markets around the country that provide good quality inventory for you as an investor to invest in real estate where you can get cash flow, a good yield or cash on cash return, and still have the equity growth over time on top of the last benefit, which is, one that I think a lot of real estate investors don't think about too much. And that is the tax benefit. The depreciation that you get from real estate is amazing. It's one of the most tax favored investments in the country. So those are other reasons why I'm very bullish on real estate.
Excellent. Let me see if I captured all that, and that is fantastic. So it's a shadow demand, and it's those that are 18 to 29. They're living at home with parents. It's the highest it's ever been. 52% of all 18 to 29-year-olds are still living at home with a parent or parents, and they're wanting to get married. They're wanting to form their own household. They're wanting to have kids. It's as that increases, right? That creates more demand for housing, as well. Historical low interest rates that have been going up, but still historically very low, make it still attractive to buy real estate. And then the last one, which is what the ones that we really love here at Capital Gains Tax Solutions, is the tax benefit, right? And I have this concept that I've been working with more and fleshing out. And want to know what you think, Marco. And it's the idea of cash flow versus tax flow. And they've always been important, right? But there's a big thing, let's say the last 10 years, Robert Kiyosaki, cash flow, all that stuff, which again is absolutely important. But now more than ever, with I think they're at 29 trillion. I don't know, it's crazy with the government spending these days, right? And they're having to increase taxes by a lot. and and they're having to figure out ways to pay for this stuff, right? And so it's now more than ever about tax flow and not cash flow. So let's dive into those main benefits for as a reminder for all of us. What's the biggest benefit of tax write-offs and depreciation for owners of real estate, Marco?
Well, the main thing is this is with residential real estate, the IRS allows you to depreciate the improvements of the property. And the improvement simply means that it's everything excluding the land, the dirt underneath the property. So if you take the value of the improvements, which typically in most markets are is the bulk of the purchase price or the bulk of the property value, you can take that and depreciate it over 27 and a half years, which simply means you take the value divided by 27.5, and that number is what you're allowed to use as depreciation, basically a tax write-off against your income. And so when you can defer or reduce or even eliminate your taxable income from these investment properties because of that depreciation, it lowers or eliminates the tax impact each and every year. And what's interesting about that, and the beautiful thing about that, is you don't need to spend a dime or a penny in order to get it. In other words, it's a there's a term for it. I don't remember what it's called, but essentially, you don't need to spend any money in order to get that write-off. It is a paper deduction that you get automatically because you can depreciate the real estate. So this is why real estate is one of the most tax favored investments out there. In fact, it is arguably the most tax favored investment as of now since I think it was the Jobs Act of 2017. It has become one of the most tax favored. You've got the depreciation. You can do cost segregation on it and take bonus depreciation on your properties and your businesses. So
Let's break that down right now. By the way, you can learn more about Marco at passiverealestateinvesting.com. That's passiverealestateinvesting.com. And to also clarify, when Marco is saying residential, he's saying like multifamily, single family, duplex, fourplex, anything that basically is housing for people. The government gets a favored depreciation schedule of 27 and a half years versus commercial, which is 39 years. However, realize that your primary home you cannot depreciate, right? They're only going to do this for investment. They're going to encourage us as citizens of the U.S. or anyone really who's going to be investing in real estate in the U.S. to be able to depreciate to offset the cash flow, right? Cash flow that's coming in, because it's not about what you make, it's what you keep at the end. Offset that cash flow with depreciation of the asset, okay? And so we're about to dive into something called cost segregation and accelerated depreciation, which it's like I feel like it's the ninth wonder of the world, Marco, here, right? It's really powerful, and it's a thing that that Trump, well, part of what Trump did well with policy was he enabled something called bonus depreciation, which is only a couple of years left. I think it's 2026, 2025. It's going to fall off if it doesn't get renewed. But essentially, what that means is we can, as real estate investors, not only take depreciation, and not only do cost segregation to accelerate that, but then to get bonuses on top of that. So Marco, break down maybe an example of this, of how you're doing that perhaps with some of the investments that you have.
Well, let's talk about the cost segregation. I'm not a tax advisor or a tax specialist, and so I don't know all the nuances when it comes to the bonus depreciation. There are some conditions attached to it. Cost segregation is an interesting thing, though. It allows you to take the different components that make up the property, because everything will break down over different length of time. So you can look at a hot water tank that, let's just say, lasts for 10 years, a roof that might last for 20 years, flooring, cabinets and whatnot. But you can basically break down all the components that make down a property or a house and apply a depreciation schedule towards each and every one of those. So some of those might depreciate over 3 years, some over 5, some over 10. So rather than taking it all as one whole lump sum and depreciating it over 27 and a half years, you can accelerate the depreciation by taking those components that you've broken down the property into and depreciate them in shorter periods of time, 1 year, 3, 5 years, 7 years. So that means you have more depreciation to take advantage of today and next year and the year after, and just take it sooner. And this is a good thing to do, is if you are expecting high income from your investment this year or in the coming years, the cost segregation will help you to lower your tax impact because you have higher income in the foreseeable future that you can lower through these depreciated items known as cost segregation.
Yep.
So I hope that made sense.
It does. It does
Okay.
make sense, Marco. I want to also take it even one step further. And there's an amazing video that Grant Cardone actually does on this. And if you search Grant Cardone CRE tax savings, it's a 13-minute video. He's walking through his office. He's breaking this all down. But we're going to apply this now for even potentially your personal income, okay? Which is check with your CPA and make sure that this can be there. But especially if you have a spouse who maybe not is working, they can become what's called a real estate professional. If there's certain rules like 750 hours of like active ownership in properties or management or overseeing those properties that you own personally, not like as an LP, limited partner, but as like a GP. And this allows you to take some of your active income, which by the way gets taxed at the highest level, and lower it potentially to zero. And that's really the ability to take highly appreciated assets, of which we talked about leveraging low interest rates right now. Buying multifamily properties is the ones that I love most, especially doing it potentially with partners. So you can all kind of partner together and get a big loan, which can be scary, but if it's cash flowing and it's producing, and then you get that depreciation, you can use that savings to also pay down the loan. And so it's knowing what the rules are of the game, what the game is, and the game is how do I lower your income tax? How do we lower passive income tax? And how do we do that through depreciation? In which some people go, well, why would the government allow this? Well, they want to incentivize us to build all this housing, which Marco said in point number 1, the supply-demand imbalance. Well, the government can't force Marco or me or other developers to build real estate or to buy real estate or to improve real estate. They can't force that, but they can give tax incentives that encourage entrepreneurs and business folks and developers and owners of real estate to build more so that they don't have to pay as much in tax. And so it's a win-win for everybody. But I want to encourage people to learn about this and be aware of it and check with your CPA, right? Make sure we can line these things up. But there's ways to do that. So Marco, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, to your point, if you look at tax incentives, if you look at the tax code, it's really the government's way to direct what they want. In other words, they know they're not good at housing. They know they're not good at business and industry and creating jobs and all that kind of stuff. Sometimes they like to think they are, but they're not. They're kind of the most dysfunctional organization out there. Just look at the DMV as an example. But when they need something or want something, whether it's electric vehicles or solar panels or renewable energy or more housing, what they do is they create tax incentives for people to take advantage of, so that they can defer or eliminate their taxes and make more money. So it's those incentives that drive industry, that drive the economy in the direction that they want because they have a need to fill. So just think of it that way. These tax incentives are there for a reason. These deductions, whatever they may be, are there for us to use as investors and entrepreneurs to create what the government doesn't know how to do or can't do well.
Which leads into the biggest frustration with the 1031 exchange and the deferred sales trust as an alternative, right? And that's we had a cryptocurrency deal, Marco, I'm going to tell you about, and then see what your thoughts are on this. And so she bought. She's in her 20s. Okay, she's working for a big tech company in Silicon Valley, and she bought Bitcoin for about 30 to 50,000, and she never sold, and she did over a number of years, and it went to $50 million. Okay. And so she never exited until she met us and learned about the deferred sales trust. Now she's exited about 5 million into the deferred sales trust to go start a business. And people go, what? That sounds too good to be true. Why would the government allow that? It's like, well, think about what we just said, right? They're trying to incentivize people to do things that could benefit the greater good of the economy, of the world, of society. And so she's taking this coin that's in outer space or that's on a bunch of computers. And, I'm still learning about cryptocurrency. I'm investing in it, right? It's not that I'm not a believer in it, but I'm very cautious. I'm mostly a believer in real estate, and I'm figuring out how to use crypto as a way to also build some wealth on a small scale. But that being said, she's made it on a big scale. She's a believer. And the idea is, okay, we're going to exit that. We're going to create these jobs. She's doing an educational company with her college roommate. She's retired from her big tech job. She's building her dream. She's creating more tax revenue. She's taking income from this trust to pay tax on. I'm paying taxes on the fees. Anyways, there's a lot of benefit here, right? If you just take a big expanded view and say, yeah, look at all the people that are winning. The IRS is winning too, because guess what? Bitcoin, when she sold at 54,000, Marco, dropped to about 35. It went up to 68,000 within a month of her exiting at 54. Then it went back down to 35 or 36. I'm not sure where it's at today. But all of that equity has been, instead of being lost or gone, it's now building American companies. So any thoughts on any of what I just said there?
Well, I'm not sure how to comment on that. I mean, I do own some crypto myself, some crypto assets, and maybe I need to have a conversation with you about, the deferred sales trust, because I'm now thinking about how do I manage my exit if and when that ever happens. I don't want to be taxed, obviously, but if I'm going to be taxed on those gains, I want to minimize that or defer them for as long as possible, ideally indefinitely. And this is where I need to be further educated on the vehicles and strategies to do that. And that's a conversation I would have to have with you. But look, at the end of the day, most investment activity will be taxed at some point in time. With a few exceptions, there are ways to potentially defer taxes forever, which involves trusts and passing assets on to your heirs. But look, a lot of people are going to make a ton of money in crypto. It's already happening, and this is the Wild West right now. When it comes to crypto assets, we're where the internet was back in 1995. It's like Amazon is a new thing. People are wondering, well, what is this internet thing, and what can you do with it? And should I get an email address? That's what we are with crypto. So it's going to become a big, big thing, and it will impact every area of our lives. It's going to penetrate and touch every single aspect, especially when it comes to finance. And real estate is not excluded. They're already looking at ways to have a lot of the transaction elements transacted on the blockchain. So title will be recorded on the blockchain. Transactions will be recorded and forever permanent on the blockchain. People will have records on the blockchain that can be, validated and verified in a trustless environment. In fact, real estate can be bought and sold on the blockchain. It can be fractionalized, where you can buy like 1/1000th of a property. You don't have to buy the whole property, but you can be an owner in a property just by owning a fraction of it, just like what we do in REITs today or in syndication. So this is going to change everything, but you need to understand the impact of it, as well as the tax impact of the gains that come from the crypto millionaires that are going to come about. So anyway, that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, we should do a whole other show on that whole concept, Marco, where we can really break it down for people. And for those who are wondering if they want to dig in more, we do have a crypto mastermind that happens every Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 1 p.m. Eastern, and it's the Crypto DST Mastermind, where we're talking about. I'm back. Sorry, everybody. I was just saying we have our DST mastermind. It's a crypto mastermind. We're actually bringing the crypto world together, the deferred sales trust world together, and in the traditional investing together, and figuring out a way to defer that capital gains tax, to create and preserve more wealth, to sell high and buy low, which is now possible with cryptocurrency, with real estate, with business, using the deferred sales trust. So that crypto DST mastermind happens every Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 1 p.m. Eastern. You can go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. That's capitalgainstaxsolutions.com to learn more about that, to register for free, and to join us. That being said, Marco, we're running out of time. So for listeners who want to get connected with you, what's the best place for them to find you?
Well, if you want me to leave one website, it's passiverealestateinvesting.com. That's passiverealestateinvesting.com. It's actually my sister website, but it's the home of my podcast. But you can link to our main website where we have all kinds of free resources, information, downloadable guides, and all the properties that we sell. Well, not all of them, 10% of them, but
Yeah.
it's the home.
Awesome, Marco. Thanks for being on the show, and thanks for being. I look forward to having you again. We'll maybe talk some crypto here
Sure.
another month or two back on the show. And again, I want to thank all of our listeners for listening to another episode of the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast. As always, we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them, they struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax referral options. Not having a clear plan is the enemy, and using a proven tax referral strategy such as the deferred sales trust is the best way for you to exit highly appreciated cryptocurrency, businesses, real estate, save a failed 1031 exchange, so you can defer hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars of capital gains tax and create and preserve more wealth. Go to capitalgainstaxsolution.com to learn more about that, and get with Marco too for investments, for real estate, for research, for buying deals out of state, buying deals that make sense. And his level of expertise and knowledge and all of these things are AA plus. I can't recommend him more. So thanks everyone for listening, and we'll talk to you again